It was the summer of 1976 when Raymond Iron Fist Jenkins arrived in Philadelphia with a reputation that preceded him like a storm cloud. Standing 6 feet 4 inches tall, with shoulders broad enough to fill any doorframe, Jenkins was more than just the #1 heavyweight contender. He was a force of nature who had knocked out his last 15 opponents, none making it past the 4th round. His eyes, dark and calculating, seemed to strip away any man's confidence with a single glance. Muhammad Ali, the reigning heavyweight, champion of the world, had reluctantly agreed to the bout after months of Jenkins' public taunting. The fight was scheduled for September at Madison Square Garden, promising to be the boxing event of the decade. If this story has already made you feel something, no matter how small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. Jenkins wasn't content with the standard pre-fight promotion. While Ali had always been known for his poetic trash talk, Jenkins took things to a disturbing new level. During a press conference in Philadelphia, when Ali couldn't attend due to training commitments, Jenkins spotted Ali's younger brother Rahman and elderly mother Odessa Clay in the audience. "Your son's afraid to face me," Jenkins shouted, pointing directly at Mrs. Clay, whose dignified posture never faltered despite the sudden attention. "That's why he sent his mama to do his talking. Tell him Iron Fist is coming for that belt, and I'm gonna take it like candy from a baby." Rahman attempted to intervene, but Jenkins' entourage blocked his path. "The whole Ali family's got a glass jaw," Jenkins continued, loud enough for every reporter's microphone to catch. "I bet even Mama Ali would go down in 1 round." The room fell silent. Even hardened sports journalists looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Clay simply rose from her seat, her eyes locked with Jenkins for a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, before turning and walking out with the quiet dignity that had guided her through decades of racism in Louisville and the tumultuous years of her son's controversial career. The footage played on every sports channel that night. Ali, watching from his training camp in Deer Lake, Pennsylvania, said nothing to reporters. His trainer, Angelo Dundee, later recalled, it was the only time he'd seen genuine anger in Ali's eyes since the champion's conversion to Islam and adoption of his new name years earlier. Muhammad didn't speak for hours after seeing that footage, Dundee would later recount in his autobiography. When he finally did, all he said was, "The fight just got real." In the weeks that followed, Jenkins doubled down on his strategy. He drove past Ali's childhood home in Louisville, with photographers in tow, mockingly shadowboxed on the front lawn, and even attempted to approach Ali's daughters as they left school one afternoon, only to be stopped by security. "He's trying to get in your head," Dundee warned Ali during a particularly grueling training session. "Don't let him." Ali, uncharacteristically quiet, merely nodded and continued his workout. The man known for predicting the round of his victories and composing spontaneous poetry about his opponent's imminent downfall had gone silent. The press began to speculate. Had Jenkins succeeded in breaking the unbreakable Muhammad Ali? The morning of the weigh-in dawned gray and cool over New York City. Inside Madison Square Garden, hundreds of reporters and photographers jostled for position as Jenkins arrived first, strutting onto the stage with his entourage of trainers and hangers-on. "Where's the champ?" Jenkins taunted, flexing for the cameras. Still hiding behind his mama's skirts, the room erupted when Muhammad Ali entered from the opposite side. Gone was the bombastic showman who had entertained crowds for years with his quick wit and quicker hands. In his place stood a warrior, face set in lines of determination that bordered on something darker. Ali stepped onto the scale without his usual theatrical flourishes. 215 pounds, announced the official. Jenkins followed, weighing in at 223. When the time came for the traditional face-off photo, Jenkins leaned in close, "I'm gonna hurt you so bad your mama won't." "Recognize you?" he whispered, audible only to Ali and those standing nearest. "Then I'm gonna visit her and show her what a real man looks like." What happened next would become one of boxing's most infamous moments. Ali, who had built his later career on controlled emotion and tactical discipline, grabbed Jenkins by the throat with such sudden ferocity that it took 4 security guards to separate them. No punches were thrown, but the look in Ali's eyes sent a chill through the room. "You've crossed a line," Ali said, his voice low and steady once the guards had created distance between them. "Tomorrow night you'll answer for it." That evening in his hotel suite, Ali received an unexpected visitor. His mother, Odessa Clay, had rarely attended his fights since he'd become champion, preferring to pray at home. But now she sat across from her son, her hands folded calmly in her lap. "That man wants you angry," she said simply. "Anger clouds judgment." "He disrespected you, Mama," Ali replied. "No man does that." Odessa smiled gently. "I've been disrespected by better men than him, son, and I'm still here." She reached across and took her son's massive hands in her smaller ones. "You don't fight for vengeance. You fight for truth." Ali was silent for a long moment before nodding. "Yes, ma'am. Now," she said, rising to leave, "show him who Muhammad Ali really is." As dawn broke on fight day, an unusual calm settled over Ali. His team noticed it immediately, the return of his focus, his center. When a reporter managed to catch him entering the garden that evening and asked for a prediction, Ali merely smiled. "Justice," he said simply, before disappearing inside. Madison Square Garden vibrated with anticipation. 20,000 souls packed the arena, with millions more watching on closed-circuit television around the world. The undercard fights had passed in a blur, barely registering with a crowd that had come for one purpose only, to witness what many were calling Ali's most personal battle. Jenkins entered first, greeted by a mixture of boos and cheers. He played to the crowd, shadowboxing and taunting Ali's supporters. Then the lights dimmed, and the opening notes of "The Greatest" filled the arena. Muhammad Ali appeared, surrounded by his trainers, but walking with solitary purpose. No dancing, no poems. Just the steady stride of a man with absolute clarity of purpose. When Howard Cosell interviewed him ringside before the fight, he asked about Jenkins' provocations. "I'm here to box," Ali replied simply. "The talking's done." The bell rang for round 1, and Jenkins charged across the ring like a bull, launching a barrage of heavy shots designed to overwhelm Ali early. Several connected with enough force to send sweat spraying from Ali's head. The champion, however, didn't employ his usual rope-a-dope strategy. Instead, he stood his ground, blocking what he could and returning with precise jabs that kept finding Jenkins' face. By round 3, Jenkins' early aggression had cost him. His breathing grew labored while Ali maintained a steady rhythm, economical in his movement but devastating in his accuracy. A right cross in the 4th round opened a cut above Jenkins' left eye, forcing his corner to work frantically to keep it from affecting his vision. "He's not going down easy," Angelo Dundee told Ali between round 6 and 7. "Pace yourself." Ali nodded, taking a sip of water. "He'll go down when it's time," he replied. The middle rounds became a chess match. Jenkins would surge forward, with combinations that occasionally broke through Ali's defense, drawing roars from his supporters. Ali would respond with clinical precision, his jabs setting up right hands that increasingly found their mark as Jenkins's movement slowed. In round 10, something shifted. Jenkins, frustrated by his inability to hurt Ali significantly, launched a wild right hook that missed entirely. As he stumbled forward from the momentum, he muttered something only Ali could hear. Whatever was said, it triggered a transformation. Ali's eyes narrowed, and he unleashed a combination of punches so fast that Cosell, calling the fight, could barely count them. 15 punches in succession! Cosell exclaimed as Jenkins sagged against the ropes. "I have never seen Muhammad Ali throw with such controlled fury." The referee gave Jenkins a standing 8 count, the first time in his professional career he had been so thoroughly rocked. When action resumed, Ali didn't rush for the finish. Instead, he methodically broke Jenkins down over the next 4 rounds, targeting the body, weakening the challenger's legs, and avoiding the desperate haymakers Jenkins threw in hopes of a miracle knockout. As the 15th and final round began, Jenkins was nearly unrecognizable. His face was swollen, blood streaming from cuts above both eyes and his nose. Still, he refused to quit, summoning whatever reserves of strength remained to meet Ali in the center of the ring one last time. What followed was not a beating, but a master class. Ali, showing respect for Jenkins' courage if not his character, picked his shots carefully. With 30 seconds remaining, a perfect 3-punch combination, jab, right cross, left hook, sent Jenkins to the canvas for the final time. The count reached 10. The arena erupted. Muhammad Ali had retained his title by knockout in the 15th round. The post-fight press conference was delayed as Jenkins was taken to the hospital for precautionary examination. When Ali finally appeared before the media, gone was the quiet intensity that had characterized him throughout fight week. The familiar smile had returned, though tempered with a new gravity. "Raymond Jenkins is a strong fighter," Ali began, surprising many with his generous assessment. Tonight was about boxing, not personal matters. A reporter pressed him, "But after what he said about your family," Ali leaned forward. "In life, you meet people who test not just your skills, but your character. How you respond defines you more than any belt ever could." What nobody knew then was that Ali had already instructed his team to ensure Jenkins received the best medical care available. Nor did they know that 3 days later, when Jenkins was released from the hospital, he would find Ali waiting to speak with him privately. What passed between the two men in that hospital room remained between them for nearly 2 decades, until Jenkins finally revealed it in a tear-filled interview shortly after Ali's retirement. "He could have hated me, and no one would have blamed him," Jenkins recounted. "Instead, he told me something I've never forgotten. He said, 'A man who needs to attack another man's mother has lost before the first punch is thrown. I forgive you, but now you need to forgive yourself.'" That conversation marked the beginning of an unexpected transformation for Raymond Jenkins. Within a year, he had fired his provocative manager and rebuilt his career on a foundation of respect rather than intimidation. Though he never won the heavyweight title, he became known as one of boxing's most sportsmanlike competitors and eventually a respected youth trainer in Philadelphia's toughest neighborhoods. On the 5th anniversary of their fight, Jenkins received an invitation that left him speechless. Muhammad Ali wanted him to join a charity exhibition to raise money for Parkinson's research. When Jenkins hesitated, uncertain how Ali's family would receive him, he got a phone call from Odessa Clay herself. "My son tells me you're a changed man," she said simply. "I'd like to see that for myself." The exhibition drew a sellout crowd. Before it began, Ali brought Jenkins to center ring and embraced him as a brother. There wasn't a dry eye in the arena when Ali raised Jenkins' hand alongside his own. Years later, when Parkinson's had robbed Ali of much of his mobility, but none of his spirit, Jenkins became a regular visitor to the champion's home. He would often sit reading to Ali, or simply keeping him company while watching old fights. The greatest victory in boxing history wasn't when Ali beat Foreman in Zaire or survived the Thriller in Manila, Jenkins would tell young boxers. It was when a man I had deeply wronged showed me that true strength has nothing to do with your fists and everything to do with your heart. When Ali passed away in 2016, Raymond Jenkins was among the pallbearers. And as he helped carry the champion on his final journey, Many noticed he walked directly alongside Rahman Ali and the family he had once mocked, now united in grief and respect for a man who had taught them all what it truly meant to be great. If you've made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing. I tell these stories with my heart in my hand to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this really touched you, give back. Comment. Subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.